Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video. As you can see, we are talking about the CJRB Ekko today, and I am fortunate to be able to share two versions with you. These are both visiting from fellow knife enthusiast Steve. Sorry about that, I knocked the tripod. He lives local to me and is kind enough to let me borrow the stuff that he has in his collection. Let me just briefly show off my watch. This is a G-Shock Mudmaster. This is the GG1000, so it doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but it definitely has that Mudmaster look, and I have wanted one of these for a while, and so super stoked to have this on the wrist. I will do a video on it. Again, it doesn't have, there's some things that it's missing, and I'll talk about that in the full video. But as far as, what I want it for and what appeals to me, it really scratches that itch. One more look there. So we'll have a video about that coming up. Let's get back to the Ekko here. We have the budget version in micarta and AR RPM 9 steel. Button lock on both of these. This, of course, is titanium with a bit of texturing here in S90V. Button lock as well. Very smooth action on these. Very enjoyable. These are some fidget-friendly knives for sure. All right, let me give you the specs on these, and then we'll talk about the features and materials and all that kind of stuff that we like to get into. All right. CJRB does this quite often, I will say, with a couple of different models where there's like a high-end version and a budget version. I recently had the Riff, I think, which did a similar thing. This is a Laconico design, and I have to say, Ray Laconico has got to be, if not one of the most prolific knife designers out there. Always does a great job, and I have to say, I do love his sort of simple, clean aesthetic. It's always, he's able to generate interest in a design without going crazy, and he's just able to keep things clean and simple, but also kind of cool. And certainly, I think this design fits that overall Laconico sort of aesthetic. The size on these is pretty darn nice. As an EDC knife, these are 7 9/16, so just a hair over 7.5 inches. Now, normally I don't like knives this small, but I have to say, I'm going to skip over the other numbers for a second and say the grip area on this is almost 4 inches. So I can easily get a full hand on this. The swell in the handle here kind of fills up my hand really nicely. This has got to be one of the most comfortable sort of small-ish designs that I'm aware of. Okay, the other knife that this kind of brings to my mind is the American Lawman, because again, the Lawman is bigger, but it's it's kind of on the small-ish end of EDC, and it feels so good in hand. The Manix 2 would be another good comparison. I just don't happen to have my Manix within arm's reach, so I'll just tell you about it. All right. This is not quite as good as the Manix, but for its size and for the thinness of this handle, the grip area and the overall ergonomics are a huge, huge win. Absolute home run in that department. All right. Blade length on this is going to be 3 1/4 inches, which is, again, the small-ish side for me. It's 4.5 inches closed, and you can see how the blade, because that front flipper kind of sticks up, so it's 4.5 inches to there, not to the end of the handle. So not a big hefty knife. In fact, going to carry super easily. And I have to give credit where credit is due here. For a knife of this size that carries super easily, it's so comfortable. The micarta version is going to weigh in at 3.48 ounces, with the titanium going up to 3.59. Both are completely fine. Like at 3.5 ounces, you're not going to notice this in 80% of pants. And if you're wearing, I don't know, I guess thin workout pants or running shorts or something, then you're going to notice anything. So, but I think these would work even in a pair of track pants or workout pants or something like that. Moving on to the blade, we have a high flat grind on a fairly thin blade stock here. And if you've watched my Theta video, you know that I've commented on this. And I've commented on this quite a lot. It seems like so many knives these days just have these super, super thin blades. And I kind of wish we'd get away from that trend. I've said this before, maybe some of you do a lot of kitchen work with your knives, but I don't need a folding kitchen knife. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me as an EDC. For an EDC, I want something a little tougher, a little more robust, that I feel like inspires just a little more confidence. Now, I'm not suggesting these are fragile or anything like that. And I will say sort of that Wharncliffe reverse tanto design does tend to add a little bit of strength to a blade. And so that's a nice way of going at these. The finishes, the satin finish on this S90V is exceptional. Just a beautiful, beautiful blade. And you guys know this, I'm a sucker for satin finishes. That said, the stonewash here is nice, but it just doesn't excite me nearly as much as that gorgeous satin, which is all fingerprinted up by me. Okay. S90V is going to hold a crazy good edge, although it's not going to be for the faint of heart in terms of sharpening. You'll probably need something a little more substantial. Where's my Spyderco Sharp Maker? Anyway, I was going to pull my Sharp Maker in, but it's out of reach as well. But that's probably not going to do the job unless you really stay on it. Okay, you won't be able to let this get dull and then bring it back with just a Sharp Maker. You'll probably need something a little more substantial. All right. But man, edge holding is crazy. And I remember a discussion about this where we were on the Canadian Knife and Gear channel, and Peter Rosenti weighed in and was like, look, when it comes to folding knives, edge retention is the primary consideration. And so S90V is just the go-to steel. And so here you go, S90V at a fairly reasonable price. I know these are like a bit over $200, but not crazy over. And so, you know, I have to say the value, I think, is pretty on point in terms of materials and construction and all of that on both of these knives. All right. Let's talk about the action next. We've talked about the blade. Blade is good. I wish it were thicker, but it's not. As it stands, it's still fine. Okay, no real complaint other than my own subjective desire for thicker blade stock. All right, action, button locks on both of these. All right, and those button locks are quite well done. No movement side to side or up and down. Like, it's pretty darn good. Very encouraging lockout there. And button locks, again, I've had this conversation before, but button locks these days seem to be a little bit better. It's like we've kind of got some of the kinks worked out that we used to see more frequently. And so I don't see the problems that I once saw with button locks. I'm sure there's some out there, and I certainly know I've heard some reviewers complain about when you push the button in, being able to push it so far in that you end up pushing the blade. I definitely don't get that on either of these knives, and I have yet to experience it. I'm sure I will. Just give me time over, the next couple of years as I'm, paying attention for that and checking out different button locks. I'm sure it'll happen eventually. Just hasn't happened so far. Back to the handle. This 3D machine titanium with this nice texturing is phenomenal. It feels great in hand. It's very confidence inspiring. The micarta is just slab micarta, but I mean, it's micarta. It feels great. I don't think I've ever had a micarta knife that didn't feel pretty darn good. And this one is no exception. So ergonomics are a win. Pocket clip is deep carry and reversible on the budget version. It is milled titanium and not reversible on the Thai version, but it is nice. I love, this is a perfect Laconico clip. It's just simple and clean and really fits with the rest of the knife quite well. All right, so not much to complain about here. If you're looking for a great EDC knife, if you don't want to break the bank, this is a great option. If you want something a little higher end and a little more special, this is a phenomenal option. And the value is definitely still here. For titanium and S90V, the price point on these is nothing to complain about at all. And so overall, actually, I should throw in a couple of comparisons. I don't have a lot that compares well to these. Let's see. Kaiser bag letter. This was the giant one, but just pretend, use your imagination, pretend this is the small bag letter button lock. That might be a decent comparison. I've got the, for a slim, titanium folding knife with good materials, the Maverick, I think is a good option. That, I certainly enjoy a whole lot and kind of fits the overall trend of this knife. And just for the fact that everyone is kind of familiar with it, and this should give you a good point, a reference point, here's a pair of two. Okay, in conclusion, what do we have to say about this? Well, look, I think CJRB's done a good job here. The value is on point. The ergonomics are on point. The utility, you've got a good steel, good materials. I think, if you're looking for a great EDC folder, this is going to be a pretty good option, and, check a lot of boxes for a lot of people. It's small without being too small, while at the same time being big without being too big. Like, it really lands in a really nice spot. Ergonomics is excellent for its size. Like, rarely do I see a knife that's on the smaller end where I just love the ergonomics, and this is really, really good. I actually, these are very satisfying and feel great in hand. So for all those reasons, this is a pretty darn good option. I know there are lots of, budget button locks out there right now, and so it's hard to discern them. I do think it helps to have, a well-recognized designer in Ray Laconico putting these together. I think it's a great option to class this up a little bit and offer something really special and some higher-end materials, as well as going with the micarta can differentiate a little just from, the tons and tons of G10 that's everywhere these days. So there you go. Don't forget to check those channel sponsors. It is a huge help to the channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will talk to you soon.